We are a little delayed in getting started. So, for everyone's reference, we are going to have a quick workshop facilitated by the Law Bureau. Then we will begin our work session to discuss Resolution 63 of 2025. And then, following, we will host our legislative session. So please bear with us this evening. I'd like to turn the floor over to City Solicitor Neil Grover to begin the presentation on the city bid process.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. This presentation comes to you in the context of the fact that the bids are now out for the Broad Street Market project. The council rarely does have a chance to look at how public bidding works. So it's really to give an overview of it, which informs then the coming resolution for the appropriation related to that. So we thought on the front end, having a presentation about how the bidding just works generally, may be helpful to the public and the council, to have a more robust discussion about the money requested. I want to just go over a brief sort of context-setting discussion about the Broad Street Market. As everyone knows, it's been part of the fabric of Harrisburg for 150 years or more now. It has been important to the city, and a few decades ago, the city found it so important that they actually took ownership of it. Some people believed we always owned it. We did not always own it. We acquired it in the second half of the 20th century when it was in desperate straits. The city did that because it thought it should remain and thrive. There's no question that the market has its ups and downs over the many decades, but it's also endured over the many decades. It's like the theater. No matter how many times it seems like it's on its last legs, it comes back again. But everyone knows in July 2023 was a fire that sort of called all that history into question, and decisions had to be made. That disaster sort of made a determination of whether that, what I would call the marker of history in Harrisburg, should continue, be replaced, or simply forgotten. It seems the universal answer from the public, from officials, and everyone else is that it needs to continue. And then the question is how. To do that, we undertook, after dealing with insurance companies, and I think it was somewhere between 13 and 16 adjusters at the beginning, because everyone had a different company, an analysis of the market. It was on the National Register of Historic Places, which frankly people had to go find because it was put on there so long ago. No one here working was dealing with that question. So a lot of people got involved in the process of figuring out how to restore it. As you know, you'd already voted on contracts related to the construction manager and to the architect engineer design for it, which had done an RFP process. And then the process to put together this set of requirements to restore a national structure on the historical register got underway. Tonight you're going to be asked to discuss a resolution which is going to go to how to fund what will be the construction contracts that go with this. And so to do that, it seemed important to go through and see what exactly the public bidding process was that would get us to these types of numbers, what those numbers mean at this stage of the process, and just what has to be done for the restoration to get to the other side. As you know, some funds have already been expended from initial insurance money and other money. Some funds that will be expended will be reimbursable by fire insurance, but some certainly will not be. No one can tell you with any certainty what the ultimate reimbursement will be, because the insurance company under the policy will go through the submissions line by line to see if it's an eligible expense or not. Just like you or I, if we have a house fire, we are insured as to the condition it was to be replaced at the time of the fire. If it was a 50-year-old building without a porch, you don't get to put in a deck and have insurance pay for it. So part of this is plainly covered, part of this is plainly not covered. And so some monies will be coming back from insurance, but some plainly will not. design that has come through seems to have been well received by the State Museum Commission and their representatives about its historical accuracy in terms of what they're trying to do. It's been presented and seems to provide a better long-term look at some infrastructure improvements in the area. And most importantly, it will continue the long-term use of the market for decades to come. With that sort of framework, I want to just go through the public bidding process and talk about how it has to happen in Harrisburg, because we didn't write the rules. The rules were provided to us by the state. There are steps to public bidding, which we've put up onto a PowerPoint here. The reasons we do these under the law is because the third-class city code says we must, which is what we're governed, and the state procurement code says we must. And it tells us when and how we have to bid. We do a bid, which is simply a set of documents we put together about what construction we are looking for, that internally and externally working together has to have specifications and a scope. That is what we brought in the architects, engineers, and construction manager to assist facilities with, is to work through that scope. They did so. This particular project was divided into 11 separate bid packages. Some of them are mandatory by state law. We have to divide bids for HVAC, plumbing, electric, and other into separate packages. Some of them then are best practices where you divide them into separate. Things like we're doing demolition separate. We need an inspection service that's separate. There's a number of items. Of the bids that went out, 10 of the 11 categories received bids. What is called site prep did not, and that had to go on back out to bid under the procurement process right now, and that's ongoing, and that second round of bidding for that is, I think, closing out this week. Once the bids go out, there's a chance for meetings with the potential bidders, and that happened out at the Broad Street Market in this instance, but it happens in all of those cases where we're doing a construction bid. Professionals, agents get to come out and look at the project, ask questions about the project. We then have, because it's going to be a public bid, those questions have to be put in a way that everyone can hear the question and everyone can get the answer. We can't give out those answers individually. Over time, what the city has done and has done, I think, and have been pleased with, is we've utilized what's called pen bid, which is a service by which we put bids up for all kinds of things, including construction projects. You have to get an account to be a bidder, but what you log on there, and you can get your questions put in once you're logged on for a potential contract, and then that everyone can see the question that ABC Construction put in. Everyone can see the response that came back from here, the city of Harrisburg. Sometimes the questions are easily answered, sometimes they are not. It just depends on the specifics of the contract. After the bids are out, they're evaluated. A tabulation sheet is created which shows each of the bids that came in for each of the categories. That is reviewed and signed by at least 3 people. The procurement officer, the mayor, and frankly, I think it's the department director is the third one on this particular one. When they do that, that becomes a public document. These are the tabulations of the bids that came in. Within those bids, though, there are sub-numbers. Subcontractors are captured in there to make up that total bid. And then in a bid, there can be variations. That is, there can be add-ons that are laid out in the bid that you can add on a category the city might need, or we can have a deduct, which means something we might take away depending on the overall cost of the project. And the bidders are informed of that on the front end and can put pricing in for each of those. What a tabulation sheet is supposed to show you is the top number that's going to be there. What is the most that particular contractor is going to be paid based on their bid. We then, while there's contract documents to go out with the bid, very often as bids are awarded, some negotiation has to go on, particularly for some terms of conditions for specific types of vendors because of their own insurance things. We require the insurance, we require the bonding, but those things are what are sort of the nuts and bolts of getting the thing to the point where it's actually a final contract. There is what goes out the door, a notice of award to each contractor, which tells them that they are the successful bidder. Others can challenge that if they wish. Once that's out the door, they can see why they weren't successful. Oftentimes there are such questions in smaller contracts. We get to be even down from anything from fireworks to a vehicle replacement, where people are putting in and questioning, what was their bid? Why was that the one that was the most successful than I? In that process, there is, do you have a question? Sure.
Yeah, I remember when we were going through this particular contract with Alexander, and we had to vote a couple times to get this right. And I think one of the things that we did ask, if I'm correct, as council, is can we have something in place like that when someone isn't the lowest responsible bidder, and they can know why? Because if it's like a test, if you don't check a box of why they didn't get it, they probably can make the same mistake the next time. Did we even look at something like that?
So others can speak to that, but as my understanding, that happens all the time, is that people inquire, why wasn't I the responsible bidder? And some don't follow the instructions. Like you'll say that you have to provide this much material, you got to provide it and be done in this period of time. If they can't do those things, they're not the lowest responsible bidder, even if they're lower. Some are based on experience, frankly, not this type of contract, but others, because someone will put in a bid so low, we know from having done it year in and year out.
Possible way they can make it.
There's no way that they
So
can.
you're saying there is a document in place?
I don't know if it's a document. I don't know what I would call that. There's a process in place, but very often it's up to you as the bidder to inquire, why didn't I? And you can get answers to that question.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think that we had talked about that as council to see if because of what we had to go through with JEM, Alexander, Steelworks, and a few other ones.
I can inquire if there's a document used.
The bid. Okay.
So I can inquire if there's a document used, but it's very hard to be universal in that because the type of bids we do, right? Most of our bids aren't construction. Most of our bids are much smaller items. That's where most of our pen bid activity is on much smaller items. So there's not, like what you would do for road construction, what you would do for buildings, what you would do for a car being built, or fire radios are all very different from each other.
Got you. Don't let me hold you up.
Okay. Oh, I got all night. We can just hang out and chat, sir. In the meeting, there's usually, but not always, a mandatory meeting for the potential bidders where they have to come. It's up to the entity whether they make the meeting mandatory or not. At times, the city does not make the meeting mandatory for the simple reason that sometimes that will exclude vendors who are not as sophisticated as a large vendor, because they haven't been in the process before, and the city tries not to instantly eliminate you by failing a mandatory step. And it lets them actually affiliate sometimes with another contractor who gets it. That's sort of a project by project, bid by bid package. But some we do mandate it, and it just depends on the type of nature. This one, my understanding is we did not mandate it. We had public information meetings for bidders and walkthroughs out at the Broad Street Market at least twice prior to the bids going out the door. And that was attended by city officials, the construction managers, the architects. And I understand they were fairly well attended. But that's a standard process by which you have such a meeting and talk about the project. There is a scoring committee appointed for any bid package. Typically, it's 3. Sometimes it's 2. That depends on the nature of the bid and how big an issue it is. But biddings are then scored. But basically, the question is, did they meet the check boxes that you put in on the public bidding document? And there are times no one can meet all of the check boxes, and that's not unusual because government is a hard thing to bid on, and then some judgment calls have to be made. The city adds additional conditions that aren't always there, maybe if you're with the Commonwealth, or have different conditions than maybe if you're bidding with the Commonwealth. And they don't have certain documents readily available at the time of the bid, And then we work to make sure they have them. They have to have their bonds in place. They have to have their insurances in place. They have to prove that insurance is in place. If they had other obligations we required, we have to have those documents. Sometimes we have the responsible contractor certificates that come from the city ordinance that they have to get in place. And then there's work done administratively to go back and forth between city staff and the bidders to make sure those things materialize in the course of the project before a contract can be signed. We then review the contracts. We look for compliance. The Law Bureau does. We see if there are gaps in what was supposed to be there, inquire on why. Sometimes there's a very rational reason there's a gap there that is beyond everyone's control. But the lessons from the past, the big hard lessons, are the fundamentals. Everybody has to be bonded. They have to have the right bonds, and they have to have the right insurance. If you remember when the incinerator issue happened, there was a lack of bonding. That was the ultimate failure of the project because there was no one to cover it when it failed. And that is what bonding does to the public. That protects the public money on the project, and that is why it's there. Once the Law Bureau signs off for the contract, it circulates then to the mandatory signers. On the city side, under the optional third-class city charter law, and under the city charter, that is the mayor and the controller. No contract can be signed or used without the mayor or the controller signing them. So the Law Bureau is required under the third-class city code to review and prepare contracts. The mayor and the controller signatures are both mandatory for a contract to be valid. In the course of this, there are thresholds, which are a little different for third-class cities than they are for some other municipalities in Pennsylvania. But there's a state threshold for what must be bid, with some categories that are exceptions. And now, because of consumer price index increases, that number for this year is $23,800. A contract over that amount that is subject to bidding must be bid if it's not an exception. Other municipalities, you'll see 3 categories of numbers there, have a different requirement for that middle than third-class cities. They have to take more steps than third-class cities. We have some room for judgment on those because third-class cities are so varied in their size. There's 53 of them, and some have a few thousand people, and some have 160,000 people. And so the legislature left us with some discretion to figure out what we require. What we require is 3 quotes, 3 bids on those middle numbers that are above $3,500.
So, excuse me, Solicitor Grover, just for my own edification, so any agreement between about $0 to $3,500, an MOU would suffice in executing?
It's not necessarily an MOU. Sometimes it's just a purchase order or a similar document.
Nothing formal of an agreement,
sometimes
though.
it's just an order document, but it depends what it's for, right?
Okay.
If it's something that has a warranty connected to it, if it's something that has an ongoing commitment that's a multi-year obligation on the city, then it may require the full signature of everyone.
Okay.
It can't get through the procurement process, yet alone the contract process. It also has a series of people that have to sign off to get through procurement. Okay. So it's not that one person can get it through and then it gets paid.
It still has to go through the process.
It goes through a process. It goes through finance. It goes through the business administrative office. It goes through procurement office just to make sure that is all there. The controller's office then looks for supporting what they call pre-audit documents to show that it's appropriately to be paid. So there are a lot of checks and balances to make sure money just doesn't go out the door.
For each step?
For each step, for
Okay.
any government money. So the last page of this document is really just some links to some of the many, many, many areas where there's information on public bidding. The first one is just to city information. That is our written procurement policy, which is fairly robust. It's been developed over a lot of years. The threshold that got to $3,500 used to not be $3,500, used to be a whole lot less coming out of receivership. And over the years, that has developed where there's a little more discretion for those things that have to go out for the multiple quotes, just so that business can be done for things people need to pick up and use. That's sort of an academic to what we're talking about tonight with the Broad Street Market, but that is what guides decisions in offices throughout the city on what they have to do to go procure a particular contract or purchase. The second one is of interest for people that want to look at it. It's the pen bid one. It actually what serves us and many, many, many other municipalities as how bidding works. You can see our bids. You can see bids from all over the state. You can see how they handle it. It has been a fairly sophisticated system that's provided a lot of service for governments using it. It eases the burden, frankly, on local governments by having to do what they have to do, used to do by themselves. So it's very robust, and we frankly use it all the time now. To be a vendor in the city, you have to, on our contract, you have to get a business license with the city. It's one of our requirements in the ordinance. You can't bid on a contract, get the bid, and not have a city license to be here. That's a particularity thing to the city of Harrisburg. I wouldn't say everyone has that, but that's one of our requirements. That's an easy one for them, right? It's a $50 a year license, I believe. So if they're going to be the successful bidder, they get the license.
I just had a quick question, because I know this was an issue when it came to the Broad Street Market, where about the rubrics that are placed on pen bid and them being the same as what's on pen bid and what we were grading. So who creates those rubrics that then go on pen bid? I'm guessing it's the city, but I just want to get clarification.
I think others can speak to it through procurement, but it is the city, the facilities director, or the other department director trying to figure out what rubric you would need is different for what project you're in.
Of course,
right?
they should change with each project.
So sometimes there's a consultant who's already on the project and is advising, this is what you should be looking for.
Okay.
Sometimes there isn't, and you're working with sort of a normal purchase thing, and it depends on the complexity of it. But as the procurement office and the department and the business office work together to come up with the standard's going to be for a particular project.
Okay, and pen bid is just kind of like a hub where we post the information. Is there also a compartment of pen bid that like looks at what we're posting and gives thoughts and ideas? Do they help with templates, or are they just the hub where we upload everything?
So it's actually also a resource of information, and some for us, but really for potential government bidders, right?
Okay.
That it tries to boil down, because we're all working under generally the same rules. You've got to do these things to be here, right? And so there's a lot of information on it, and a lot of assistance in terms of like guidance on how to put your thing together. They won't tell you how to break it down. You have to know your business to break down your bid to how it has to be. You have to follow the municipality's instructions.
Right.
If the municipality says, we're going to be bidding the chassis and the body of this vehicle separately, then you better be putting in them separately.
Right, you have to follow the rules.
And not everyone does. It's one of those things. People just some sort of automatically do it. Some companies are always just putting bids in, and they don't necessarily comply.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right.
I mean, that happens.
Right. And we
In
have
all
people,
types of sorts of places.
I don't think people can say enough about the work for our procurement officer, Hillary Green, who just manages this very complicated system again and again and again with every office. It is the department, the bureau's responsibility to make sure that what they're putting for pen bid, what they put out as proposed contracts, have an appropriation to go with it. Right? That's the controller is the backstop checking that happens before contracts are signed. But that is really where this goes from here tonight. There is a request to do a series of contracts and fund them. There is obviously not enough money by close right now appropriated to do it. And as a rule, you do not sign a contract that is not funded. It's not fair to the taxpayer. It's not fair to the vendor. And you probably should not expect a vendor to sign a contract that says, I've got a third of the funding in, but sign it for the whole thing, and we'll promise we'll give you the money later. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have the funding up front for the contract. You can sometimes break it into multiple years and multiple phases, and you've seen that happen before too. But government contracting is fairly strict in many ways, and a contract that takes less than 12 months for the city or for the Commonwealth, it has to be funded, there's no question. Contracts that exceed 12 months are subject to annual procurement. So, and that is what, a bidder has to know. I'm unaware of us taking away the funding for an existing contract ever, But that's been the law, as far as I know, for decades in Pennsylvania. That's so that one legislative body isn't automatically bound by the last legislative body. They can make decisions based on the reality on the ground when they're making votes on appropriations. Here, this money, it is anticipated should be able to cover it. I think one of the realities you have to look at, which everyone has to look at, in government construction, the costs tend to be more than originally thought. That is simply the reality in government construction. It's very much was that way with the public safety building. It'll be a bit that way, as you'll see, or as you saw with the FMB field construction, and by waiting for the building next door, the cost of construction is 25% more from when the first bids came in that were unfunded or the original. So when you wait, the numbers go up. The last thing that I think is worth mentioning is that because of the policy that we had at the time for fire insurance, it covered every single structure that we had as one policy, one thing. Only some of our structures are historical. The timeline for completion for the policy was 2 years from the date of the fire to be completed construction. It didn't account for the historical nature of a building and what you have to do. So under the policy, we were to be completed by July of 2025. But they also deal with the reality of what they've insured. So we are on 90-day extensions to keep it going. We have monthly meetings with them. They're coming back out, I think it's the week of October 20th, to examine the building again, to see where we are in the process. I'm certain that's not their last visit. Basically they want to make sure their insurance money is getting used for what it's supposed to be used for. If we stop, that 90-day extensions go away, and then there is no more coverage. That's the simple reality of the contract that we entered into long, long ago. That's one of the ones we're dealing with. We're in a position where we're just sort of at where we're at with the monies that's available to us. The business office is still looking for third-party funding from grants, but you can't wait for that money to enter into contracts, which is why the procurement is there. If it arrives, it arrives. But right now, there are funds that are being asked to be moved to make sure these contracts can move forward, and that's what is going to be discussed later this meeting, and then before a vote happens after this meeting next week or the week after. I am happy to answer any other questions.
Are there any other questions, council members? We have Councilwoman Daniels participating virtually and Vice President Green. Are there any questions regarding the presentation? Okay.
And I will just note the last document up there is a separate document. It is just 2 pages out of what is a very good resource for anyone in Pennsylvania. It's the Pennsylvania Legislature's Municipal Desk Book. It breaks down issues that you encounter all the time, subsection by subsection. These 2 pages simply are a simple table on what municipal procurement is. Almost anything you encounter as a council member, as a citizen, you can find that subject in this material, which is free online. But it really does boil down the basics of some municipal obligations. And so we just provided that for you, and we're happy to give a link to that as well.
Solicitor Grover, just your professional opinion as the city solicitor, being as though the Alexander projects were more of the ones that kind of caused the uproar in the city, do you feel, in your professional opinion, we followed your presentation as acquiring them to a T on both instances, both FMB and Broad Street?
So, and I should make this distinction, right? And those are not construction contracts.
Okay.
Those are professional services contracts, which don't come under procurement codes. They're specifically excluded from procurement codes. So we do, as a practice, and it's not a requirement, to do RFPs for professional contracts. That is, I think, one of the actual true benefits that came out of Act 47 receivership, is forcing the city to be better stewards of this information and not just having contracts come down that no one vetted anywhere for professional services. So these were vetted, and the Alexander, from at least my observation, has been our advocate in these meetings with the contractors on both of these so far. They've been our advocate in the meeting with the Commonwealth, they've been advocate in our meeting with the architect, and they're the ones who know that time is money and it's costing us if this doesn't move forward. I'm a lawyer, so I'm used to rough and tumble. Not everyone likes rough and tumble. I like rough and tumble. So you might be rough about what you're saying, but if you know what you're talking about, I think that's the service the city wants. We want people that know what they're talking about and not just sort of, frankly, blowing smoke up our ass, right? And so that's my experience with them.
Councilwoman Rawls, you had another question.
I did. When it comes to securing bids for construction companies that do have to have the RFP, is what you're saying,
They
right?
do it the RFP is different. It's actual bid. RFP is a request for
Service,
proposal,
parcel, okay.
and this is actually a bid, a public bid.
Okay, so for those, I know one of the issues that we had during the process with the Broad Street Market was who was grading the rubric, the team that was put together, are the teams diverse? I know when I looked up procurement, the team can be kind of anyone you want. It wasn't saying it had to be always city employees, it can be residents. It just had a broader spectrum of individuals could be part of the team. So I know that was an issue for some council members up here, was broadening up who's looking at the rubrics. And I was just wondering, do you know if that's something that future-wise is going to be happening, or are we still sticking to the same 4 people for every single RFP that we do and bid that comes through construction-wise or thereafter?
So I think the easiest way to answer that is when we get to the portion of the meeting on the resolution for these things, you can talk about who has been the people involved, who has scored them, who put them together, literally individuals. But I have to answer it with the lawyer's hat at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
In the third-class city
Sure.
code, in the optional, there are 2 very powerful sentences.
Mm-hmm.
One is, the legislative power of the city is vested in the council. The other is, the executive power is vested in the mayor. It is the executive authority that decides who and how those things are scored. There's not another legal requirement other than the state conflict of interest laws that says whoever's scoring it cannot have an interest in any way, shape, or form, or any promise related to those contracts. And if
Right.
they were, that's not just an ethical violation, that's a criminal violation. So that is where the Commonwealth has put the one line. So as long as you don't fall into that connection, then it's a mayor's judgment in our model of who is best to serve on this particular, and that's the legal requirement. That's different than whatever the policy decisions are. But that is a mayor's authority, just like it is the council's authority to run the power of the purse and decide if money can and cannot be appropriated. That's exclusively yours. It is the mayor's authority to decide how to execute things when there is not otherwise a law prescribing it.
Okay, I understand. Leadership is important.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can bidders provide alternate solutions for add-ons or takeaways? And what are like some of the common reasons for add-ons and takeaways?
So the add-on and the detracts are determined on the front end by the package that goes out the door. There is some back and forth that can go on if, for example, the bidders in the questioning part said, in our industry, X, Y, and Z, we would use this material or this type of thing now because of whatever reason, because China doesn't send us whatever the answer is. And that kind of back and forth can happen. But they don't get to sort of make the call. Again, the information has to be available to every bidder and go back and forth. That's why the questions are put up online or they're done in a meeting with the other bidders. But you can ask in the course of the process of approving the allocation request, what exactly was the back and forth. There is a word I learned in this, which is called de-scoping, which is, I'm not sure this is even correct, but in my mind it's the equivalent of debriefing. After the bids come in and the bidders put them in, there are meetings to discuss the scope of the bid and how the city viewed it and how the bidder viewed it to make sure before we go down that track, we all are talking about the same thing. And that's just a sort of a practical piece. I think a valuable piece, frankly, that Alexander did bring to this process is to sit down and do a de-scoping with every single bidder that was there to talk about and make sure everyone understood what they bid on and the city understood what the bidders read. And sometimes language is a problem. What we think it means, that's not what a bidder thinks it means.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, are there any final questions regarding the bid process? Okay, seeing and hearing none, the time is 6:20 p.m. I'd like to conclude the workshop. Thank you to the Law Bureau and Solicitor Grover and everyone for their assistance with the presentation this evening. The time is 6:20 p.m. I'd like to officially call our work session to order. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels. Ms. Davis.
Present.
Ms. Green. Okay. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Rolls.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Ms. Hill.
Present. Thank you. I would defer to Vice President Green. Are you able to hear us? We can't hear you. Hold on.
Well, her mic's not unmuting, so she's not trying to talk.
She did unmute, but we couldn't hear
I'm
you.
trying to talk.
Okay, now we can hear you. It's loud. We heard you.
All right.
Okay, I will defer our sole committee business for this work session. It lies with the Budget and Finance Committee, so I will defer to Vice President Green to lead discussion.
Thank you, President Hill. Mr. Truesdale, could you read Resolution 63 of 2025 into the record, please?
Resolution 63, 2025, a resolution approving the sixth proposed 2025 budget reallocation related to the rebuild of the Broad Street Market brick building.
Thank you. And who do we have from the city that's going to present tonight?
Is that big enough up there?
Yes, hello, Vice President Green. Brian McCutcheon, Accounting Manager, is present.
Good evening, Mr. McCutcheon. If you wouldn't mind giving us an overview of the resolution, and then we can go for questions after that.
Okay, certainly. Thank you. Good evening, council members. Thank you, President Hill, as well. Thank you, Jared, for helping me out with the display up on the screen is Exhibit 8 of the sixth proposed budget reallocation for 2025, all about Broad Street Market. And I think to start off with this, I tried to make it as simple and straightforward as possible. There have been several meetings, a lot of analysis, a lot of thought-provoking strategies on how to develop. I mean, the expense side is easier, of course, but the top line of this schedule, and this is all within the general fund, within the facilities and special projects budget unit. The rest of the lines on down from that, below the expense account there, are all revenue line items representing resources of the city. So let me turn your attention to column H, which is the requested proposed budget amendment, and it's the $14.4 million to increase expense. And then the lines that flow below that represent an equivalent amount in total. That's why it just nets to zero at the very bottom. So the way this was developed includes an analysis of what the city has paid during 2024 and what it projects to pay for 2025, including what's still sitting out there in encumbrances, which is mainly the construction project manager, Alexander, and the architectural firm, Murphy and Dittenhafer. In the prior year, there were also construction type payments of mostly of a demolition nature related to various other companies or contractors that did such work. So when you tally or total all that up, we get to a subtotal of 3.3 million as a starting point. Then what we did through the facility, the city's facilities department and the director there and his staff, a total overall project cost is being projected on this. It's in the $23.1 million ballpark. And again, that is an estimate, but we've looked at it quite extensively. So the difference between that 23.1 and what we're projecting to pay, or on a cumulative basis, what's already been paid, the 3.3, gets us down to the 19.693 million. Now, up on the screen, it says 19.193. The difference of 500,000, you may recall already in the city's original budget for 2025, $500,000 has been appropriated within the host fee fund. So that's where that difference comes into play. But of course, the general fund is picking up the remaining material amount. So that explains how we get to, with this proposed amendment, would push that budget up to what we're believing the city needs on an estimated basis. Now, in looking at the revenue lines below, the insurance reimbursement for loss, there is also an estimate on what the city anticipates receiving overall, and that figure exceeds 11.7 million. And again, that's not a hard number to be solid or rely upon. It's an estimate. When we calculate further to back off what the city's already received, there's also a $1 million. What we've already received is 4.93 million. There's also a set-aside amount of $1 million that's meant for the temporary structure and the associated costs. That gets us down to 5.787 million. In the city's original budget this year, the original appropriation was 4.5. So the difference is what you're seeing up on the screen to increase the budget, the revenue side, by the 1.287 million. Moving down to the third line, which is, and again, these are all transfer in, meaning that we're proposing transfers from other city funds to help bridge the gap. The $1 million there for the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, through the city's Economic Development, Building and Housing Department. As you know, they work with the HUD funds that they manage. So there's a commitment out there already for $1 million, but it's specific only to the architectural design fees, which you can see we've already transferred in some of those funds currently through the end of August. So that's building up to an available amount of $1 million. The next line down, a capital projects fund. There's two components to that, which includes hotel tax and street cut fees that are complete historically and continue to be accommodated in the capital projects fund as those receipts come in. The city draws upon those during the year, the hotel tax amount in the normal course of things. So the breakdown on this would be to draw an additional $450,000 of available hotel tax and $375,000 of street cut fee revenue. That makes up the 825. Next line down, another transfer in. This is from one of the special funds, the Blight Remediation Fund. It was an estimated pick of 100,000, not severely depleting that fund, but it's not an immaterial amount for that fund. Right now, the cash position of that fund has a balance of approximately $460,000. So the ask here is to utilize that fund again for this particular project. Before I move down to the grant funds, can Vice President Green, can I stop right there for any comments or questions?
Yes, if anyone has any comments or questions, I'll start to what will be my far left with Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Vice President Green. Yes, I just need some clarification. So if we're looking at the proposed budget amendment lines, where the 14 million, the 14.4, and those numbers underneath of there, those transfer ends equal up to that 14.4, right?
Correct.
All right, so now I'll go over to the available budget after approved amendment, where you get the 19. So those numbers, where are they transferring in from? I'm just trying to see where these funds are being pulled. It just, because if you look at the line you just did, where it's the blight and remediation fund, you got 1 million. Oh, yeah, 100,000 in the available budget and the proposed. Are we adding another 100,000 to get to the 200 in the into the budget that's after?
Right, that's correct. In the final column, it's just a mathematical walkthrough, starting with if we stay with that line, from the blight fund, the original the budget of 100,000. There's been no activity yet this year. That's why you're seeing a zero. So then that just mathematically adds over to what is available still. And then the proposed amendment in column H is asking to bump that up by 100,000. And then the ending, column I is the ending result. You know, the proposed amount applied to the available budget column of column G. That's the sum right there. In other words, when you mathematically add G and H, you'll get column I.
Okay, and so I see again, and I'm just looking at the words. Words are important, and just so I have clarity, when you say you're estimating a carryover of 5.5, and that's also adding to the number, the total number, if approved, after the budget is approved, to the 19, correct?
I'm sorry. Did you jump down to the estimated cash carryover? Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at this whole thing. I'm sorry.
Right.
I know you stopped at a certain line, but I apologize. So what I'm basically asking, when you have an estimated cost or what projections, are these projections of what the city may bring in or what we're looking to spend on this project? And I'm saying, if that's the case, are these real numbers? Can we balloon or could we fall below? I know if we fall below would be a good thing, but what if we go over?
The insurance line, is that has potential to change, because again, as Solicitor Grover mentioned, that's all based on submitting information to their forensic audit review, and they go piece by piece and decide whether or not, this is eligible for reimbursement. This overall look was built on what the potential is, based on what facilities already has on hand for their knowledge, for their understanding of what the potential insurance would be. The rest of the lines down, the transfers are all solid, because that's saying that if this would be approved, they would actually happen in those amounts. They would not
Taking it
change.
from somewhere. I get that part.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, so that was my question about this, because if, again, it would be great if we fall below the numbers. I mean, we can hold on to a couple dollars. But my other question is, I heard Solicitor Grover say, somebody left their phone. Is that your phone? Did not, no. Somebody must have left it. Anywho, I heard you say that
Excuse me. Do you mind silencing your phone? Thank you.
Really?
Proceed.
I thought somebody left their phone. I heard you say that you don't know when we will be reimbursed, and if they didn't pay out all of the insurance money, so if this, because it's supposed to cover the whole.
So I think you're mixing two different concepts, right? This is to fund the opening contracts. It doesn't take into account what gets reimbursed. It's to make sure there's enough money to fund the contract. The hope is to maximize the reimbursement, and we're actually paying someone to help us maximize the reimbursement, but that will come over time, piece by piece. So that money's on top of this money. The money you're seeing, for example, insurance, that's what's on hand, right?
Right, so you're anticipating, I heard Mr. McCutcheon say almost another 7.
And we would hope more. So it's down to, frankly, legal definitions, right? It's down to what is code improvement and what is restoration, right? And those are for both sides a very real dispute, right? That they can be in. You know, we think this repointing is not code. This is restoration. We think these pillars are required for the building to be standing. They think, well, that wasn't required till some law in 1937, right? Those are real disputes with an insurance company, and I don't mean a bad dispute, but you have to work within the language of the policy to get your coverage. So, we are going to. I think the business office is going to work very hard with our outside entity to get and maximize that return. We really won't know though until we're in the weeds on that, until we're actually spending the money on the particular bills. So this number simply funds it. Now, one reality is this is a projection of what the fund will going to be.
And that's what I was asking.
Right. Could the contracts end up being more? Yes, they could end up being more, particularly if
Anticipated to be.
And I'll give you what I consider the most telling example. Government's imperfect, like every people are imperfect. When we did the 3rd Street multimodal project, in the deep weeds of engineering design, there was the wrong measure of concrete on the one portion, and it said cubic inches, and it was supposed to be cubic yards, right? So suddenly the project was way underpriced when it went out the door, and that was just in many, many documents in one page. No one caught one thing. So, could there be an increased cost? Yeah, but that would come back to council for an appropriation, right? And that would be, that would be a change order in a contract if it went up if that thing happened. So you will certainly revisit some of this information when it comes budget time for the 2026 budget and have a better sense of where we landed.
Right.
But this gets those contracts signed. And
yeah, I was just asking because the numbers really weren't making sense, but due to some of the clarity that was given, I can actually see, let's just go to the CDBG fund where it was $418,000, right? That was an expense, so that money was spent, right?
That's actually the revenue, that's materialized so far. In other
But you
words,
have I'm apologizing, in an available budget, so I can see that the subtraction from the proposed budget where you see the 1 million sitting, and then over in the available budget after the approved amendment, you see the 5, and I see that number is being deducted from that million. Is that correct?
it's let me back up to the actual column, which is column F, which includes everything, expenses and revenue, but these lines are revenue. So that 418 tells us that that's already been transferred as revenue into the general
Man,
fund.
I got you.
Okay, all right.
I just needed it because the numbers really weren't
How we interpret
right.
what what they mean, how they're flowing on this schedule. I get that.
You satisfy my concerns.
Oh,
No further
all right.
questions. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. McCutcheon, I'm not sure if you'd be able to answer this question. It's regarding the project, but not so much as the money. I know numbers kind of get thrown at us on a casual basis. I'm more interested in knowing, after 3 years, what has actually been done in succession to the brick and mortar building, besides the hiring of Alexander, right? And Alexander going with who they would like to go with. I drive my son to Hamilton or Cougar Academy every morning to go to school, and I'm literally looking at a bone, like a boneyard, right? It's just great bones, but nothing really done. I could be speaking out of ignorance. I understand there may be studies and a lot of things that many residents at home wouldn't quite understand, but just on a really remedial base, what has actually been done to the building in 3 years?
Yes, and I think I'm not the best one, but I'll defer to the director in facilities on that. But I think what's happening with these bids that are materializing right now is getting to what, as far as seeing anything visible. But if
Sorry, I see Brother Baker back there.
Yep.
We'll wait.
And Brian's just being modest. On the
Oh, no,
weekends,
Brian
he goes out
he's doing
there
a
with a
great
little
job.
thing, and he's out there doing mortar work on the weekends by himself.
Listen, Mr. McCutcheon,
He's
you were
a-
doing amazing, like answering and to the best of your ability. But I do understand there's certain components that you just couldn't quite delegate out. So it's great that Mr. Baker's here. Director Baker, it's great to see you. Do you have a response? If you heard, I could ask the question again if need be.
Let me take a swing at it. Good evening, council. So I guess in a nutshell, for the most part, we have lots of processes internally as the city goes, whether it be vetting contractors, which we're way down the road in doing, or as you said, starting studies, speaking with the historical museum board, going through the design phase, which that in itself can take up to a year for a building like this, because not only do we have to start the design and we have to get the buy-in from the interested parties, but then we also have to get the approval from other individuals to move forward in the direction we want to. If we're trying to move forward with certain materials that someone deems as not historically accurate or not structurally significant or up to par of wherever they need to be, we might need to go back to the drawing board as far as the design phase goes. So a lot of the time that's been taken so far to get where we are has been put into design and just thinking out each step that needs to happen to keep all the governing bodies happy with what we're doing and to really make the construction process happen the right way the first time, not have to go back to the well to ask for additional funds. And that is something that our consultants, they really have been advising diligently to the city as far as not taking a step, one step forward, 2 steps back. We've kind of been planning everything out very strategically, and unfortunately, it has taken a long time. And I can tell you, my office has been working every single day on the Broad Street market.
No, and I respect it, and it's a very crafty answer. I highly appreciate it. But let me just ask the question again. What has been done in 3 years to the brick and mortar historical building known as the Broad Street Market?
So right now, there's a lot of administrative work. If you're looking for actual physical, we have
Yes, like the actual repair of the building. Because what I would like to get to, what I'm landing the plane on is, would you attest that most of the hiccups that we're incurring wouldn't be a legislative, administrative kind of back and forth? It's due to the processes, how things can take a very long time.
Yes, yeah.
So I just like to have that on the record so we can just extinguish the rumor that council's a holdup or the mayor's a holdup. I like it to be known today, September 23rd of 2025, that it's either party and its processes, and there's a lot that goes into it. So I just like to extinguish those erroneous kind of rumors and just kind of move forward in a positive light, being that we were given the information you gave us this evening.
Yep. And we have, 1,600 page documents that had to be created. We have plan sets that are as thick as.
And I respect that. And just for the sake of time, when we were going through that long, hearing, we kind of went away from it. Then we approved it. we were told that's all that's needed. We just got to get Alexander enacting and we can get this building rebuilt, right? A lot of going on, and to this day, my son still rides by like, Dad, would they ever get that back? I want to kind of go back to the old building, you know. A lot of our local businesses depend on that, and I just can't see the sustainability of that tent, or how durable it'll last, you know, or how long. We haven't really gotten the study to that, or how long we would even have that, but I'm pretty sure our local vendors, business owners can't wait to get back into that building. So I'm confident in your leadership, and I look forward to any kind of updates you can give us. Thank you, Director Baker.
I don't mean to chime in. I do have a question that maybe you or Solicitor Grover can answer. Bringing up the white tent. Right now, the city's paying at least $5,000 a month for that to be there. In 2026, it'll be $6,500 a month. So how long do we anticipate?
So the anticipated.
And what happens, last question, and what happens to the white tent once the brick building is restored? I know hopefully we won't be continuing to pay for that.
Right, so I can speak to the logistical side of that. Financial side, we need to get probably Solicitor or Brian to do so. But logistically, we have a estimated 18-month construction period that's going to start very, very soon. That being said, if we look at, I would say at least 20 months, roughly, give or take, for the use of that tent, just because, there's a lot of balls in the air. No, not after, in total. So at minimum 18 months. I'd say if we had to push it, we're looking at roughly 20, but this is kind of a moving target we're looking at for this tent right now, because it's going to be there, it's going to be erected, it's going to be in use, and then we're going to need to decide, once we've completed the market, the actual brick building market, and we start moving vendors into that building and they start, utilizing those spaces, well, then we have planned, funding allowing, we have planned to do a complete remodel and renovation to the stone building. We've not really gone through any of those details because we've been inundated with all the details with the brick building, trying to get that done as fast as possible. So once the brick building starts the actual construction process, then internally, our staff can start the planning side for the remodeling, and we've already started the funding opportunities, things like that for the stone building. When we do that, we're going to displace those vendors temporarily. So we need to decide what the next best course of action is going to be to displace those vendors, but still allow them to continue serving the public on a day-to-day basis while we do the necessary renovations and upgrades to the existing building. So I'd love to give you an exact date, but as I said, it's kind of a moving target. I'm sure we'll be back here in this same spot discussing more details on new plans and new options in the future.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. So maybe you can answer it, because I'm just looking at the financial side of what the city is paying. And
So the tent is a lease. The heating system for the tent is a separate lease, and the land is a separate lease. So, and that's just the reality of what it is, right? And so inside the tent, from my view, Dave built a building inside the tent. Him and his crew came in, and so that is our material as far as I know. But the tent has to go back, and
right, and the land isn't ours, so
the land is not ours, right. And so, and those are the realities. I would be frank. When we did the discussion on the original tent, there was not a discussion about continuing to use it for the stone building. It doesn't mean such a discussion can't happen. It just means it just wasn't part. It was the emergency was the original discussion about how long we need it, and then whether that's the appropriate way to financially handle it will be a discussion for, I think, a mayor and the council at that time. Does it make sense to continue these leases? Is there another option that is economically viable, or is that the best economic viable option at the time when you're doing the stone building?
Well, yeah, I'm just looking at what we're spending, and I don't think that the public's aware of that we're spending that money. So I know in 24, it was pretty much free. Then 25, beginning of 25 is when the 5,000.
And then the land lease.
Yeah,
Yes.
then 26 is going to be 6,500. I don't know if is it going to go up some more.
I don't remember. I do not remember. It does have an expiration date, I believe, but don't know for certain. It has a renewal piece in it, but I'd have to frankly go back and look at that. It's a lot of contracts ago. But those are the kind of, you just have to deal with on the ground as they come. What are our options? Obviously, the stone building's totally connected to funding. Like you don't start it if there's no funding to get to the next step. So those are all work that happens in the order that it happens in. Right now I think they have a $300,000 grant to do some work there. That frankly won't do much for an old historic building. It'll do some things to help out that the association's doing. And then the overall, as you know, needs a longer term thought and plan for the long-term future of the Broad Street Market and its operation for the entire thing. And frankly, that's, I got probably a lot of people in that discussion over time.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to know how long we're going to continue. Of course, we're going to have to use it until the brick building is completed, but I was just worried about those fees. So thank you for answering my questions. No further questions, Vice President Green, and I apologize, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rawls, any questions?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Just for the sake of time and just to let Mr. McCutcheon finish the what he was talking to us about the reallocation. Some of my questions were already asked by Councilman Rodriguez. I had the same ones, but I was just wondering if maybe Dr. Baker, if you would be able to send council any itemized items on like what we have done to the brick building so far, what the cost was, just for transparency for us. We get a lot of residents asking us, and honestly, usually when something leaves our desk and goes to administration, not to the fault of anybody that's government, we just don't know. So if maybe just anything you can give us that's transparent wise, so when residents do ask us, we're able to say, oh yeah, this is what's being done, here's what's gonna happen next. I think it just helps us on, it just opens the city up and lets residents know that this is what's happening. So if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we have hard costs for the shoring of the building and all the site securing and all that were done by local business and whatnot. So we can show you the individuals who did the work, how much we paid for the work. We can also send you guys more of a high level construction schedule, so you can have the estimated dates of when we're going to start, when we're proposing, and when we're hoping to finish with all the different phases of the project.
That would be great. That would be so helpful. Thank you so much. And I think also anything you're able to put up on the website that's allowable law-wise, I don't know if you can, but if not, anything you can send us that we're allowed to share would be nice.
And the only thing I think we really haven't talked about that has happened is there was some, environmental and similar testing that was required, lead testing, asbestos testing. That was
Okay.
And so and they're testing the bricks so there are people in there taking tests to help
Okay.
determine what has to happen and what's safe. And those sort of just are small pieces that keep moving.
Right, but
And
that need to be done to move,
that
right?
had to be done to get to this point.
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that too. And that's what we don't know.
Right.
So sometimes when it looks like nothing's happening, maybe something is. So I think it just helps us, helps the public, helps you. So anything you can share, please. And
So I know time is of the essence.
when
I
you can
apologize.
email us. I don't want to hold anybody up.
Well, just to Solicitor Grover's point, I completely forgot about that. So we've had staff out there, city staff, actually hand digging holes throughout the entire foundation area, sporadically where we have engineers pointing out and requesting just to see the foundation depth, if there's a foundation, what's under, do we need to underpin the actual foundation after we start removing material? We have engineers out there. They've been out many times taking selective brick sampling to actually laboratory test the bricks to see how hard they are, what they're made of, what kind of mortars we can use. One of our engineers, consultants, even our architects, they highly specialize in historical brick restoration. Something I didn't even know there was such a field of expertise in, and these people they could talk all day long about brick mortar. These are the kinds of people we have in this project, and you'd be amazed the amount of information that goes into every asset of this project. And again, one of the reasons why it's taken the time it is, but again, we want to make sure we do this once and we do it right, and we don't come back in 5 years with foundational issues or step cracking in bricks or you name it. We're making sure these are not typical construction walls. They're very, very thin and they're very, very tall. Typically, you'd have a triple wall, we have a double wall. It's not near as thick as normal, so we have to come up with historically acceptable ways to fortify and stabilize these walls. So, you know, we have to keep all the governing bodies happy and keep the public safe at the same time. So there's, again, lots and lots of engineering going into this project.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. That's it for me, Vice President Green.
Thank you. President Hill, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing the movement of the funding. I think I'm clear a little bit on some of it. But the larger question is, are we simply increasing the expected revenue to match the actual cost? And if so, are those funds that we've received? Because some of these funds were not budgeted for, which we know, like CDBG fund was not budgeted for. The state grants fund was not budgeted for. The federal grants fund was not budgeted for. Some of the others, there's still a little bit of money. Do you anticipate exhausting these funds, or?
I don't, but you're spot on the column H, which has the revenue sources. You're correct. Those are not in the current year's budget. They are an existing new source to balance the increase in the expense.
Okay.
Does that help?
I think it helps a little bit, yes. Simply because they weren't budgeted for, so we had no clue what.
They were not in the original appropriation, of
Correct.
course, and then they haven't been tapped or utilized in all the reallocations that have been done up to this point this year. Right.
And then you mentioned the host fee funds, $500,000 from the host fee.
Yes.
Was expended. Okay.
Yeah. The host fee municipalities fund. Right. The budget. That contains that $500,000 is from the original appropriation this year, and that fund was just looked upon as before the budget was presented. It was proposed as utilizing that fund to assist this particular project.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis.
Thank you, Vice President Green. Thank you, Mr. McCutcheon. And thank Councilman Jones for asking the questions in reference to the numbers on this chart. I pretty much understand what's going on here now. I just have one question. The proposed budget amendment, where do those numbers come from? How do we come up with the proposed budget amendment?
The proposed numbers, again, the top number is the expense. So that's based on, that was our starting point to figure out what is it going to take to see this project through at its full cost, and based on that, to figure out where the budget needs to be. And the focal point really is what's been happening very recently and currently as these 11 bids are coming in, the real heavy costs for construction. That's the main driver behind such a large proposed increase in expense. The rest of it on down the line are just trying to come up with a strategy for what available revenue sources can go toward to offset the $14.4 million in expense. So it's based on reviewing funds, what the funds have, what revenue potential is out there. I mentioned the insurance proceeds. That of course has potential, but the main piece of it is to try to produce an analysis of our other funds, like what are their cash positions are right now, and is it reasonable to try to utilize some of those positions in different city funds? For example, the grant funds, the capital projects fund. You can see on this schedule there's various funds identified that are beyond the general fund, because it's a transfer to the general fund, but it's coming from a different a different fund, if that helps you.
It helps
little bit.
somewhat, but the exact amount, I mean, the proposal is just a proposal, it's just a proposed number.
So is your real question, how did anyone decide that the number we need is $19 million and change?
That's a good question.
Right? So that question is, this is working with Alexander, the architect, the engineers, and facilities working with them to come up with their knowledge of the industry, where they thought the bids would come in for each of the 11 projects. That number internally pre-existed the bids, and they were pretty close. I
They
mean,
were-
that's
they were
the
incredibly
reality of it.
close.
They're, what's that?
They were incredibly close. I
Right.
mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands less than perfectly accurate so far, so.
Right, so they had some bids, the low bids were, for some that were not responsible bidders, were lower than their number when you put them together. The high bids, the highest bids were above that, but frankly, where the lowest responsible bidders one came in very close to what they projected based on their experience where they would be. And that's, so that is, and frankly, that was a hold your breath thing until the bids came in, right? They were saying, we think we're gonna be in this ballpark, and they were very close.
And again, that comes down to the pre-planning that the city and Alexander have put into this project, and the amount of information that they've got out there to the public and to the trades. So they not only, we publicize. Hillary Green does tons of publicizing. She uses Penn Bid for all of her publications as well. But Alexander contacts umpteen different organizations and groups and says, City of Harrisburg's putting this out. This is what they're interested in. Here's the different trade packages. Here's when we're opening it up to the public. Come and bid on it. Because a lot of these contractors will say, we didn't know this bid was happening, or they're too busy and they didn't check. And there's a lot of different venues and avenues they can use to bid on projects. But whenever you have a respected company out there that says, here's a good one, it's historical, it's known, be part of it. We got great responses. We got lots of people that responded. We've had projects where we've gotten no responses before, and we've put out all kinds of notices to the public. So this one, we were really fortunate. We had one trade that we didn't get a response on. Every other package, we got multiple responses, or we got singular responses, but we got responses. So that also lends itself to allowing Alexander to have a fairly accurate estimate number, because if we only get one or none, it's going to cost us more next time we go out. Those contractors are going to see nobody bid on it, so they're going to know they can go higher than previously expected. So it really comes down to the estimates are sometimes amazingly accurate. I mean, they can always be off. There's a ton of factors. That's why they're estimates. But we've lucked out with the estimates. They've been really spot on.
Thank you. That was helpful. Thank you. That's it for me, Vice President Green.
Thank you. Councilwoman Daniels, any questions?
No questions, sorry about that.
No worries, thank you. I have a couple of questions, but I'll save them for the end. Mr. McCutcheon, you can continue with the presentation.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Vice President Green. So the remaining lines, the first two pertain to the city's grant funds, namely the federal grants fund and the state grants fund. Actually, the state grants fund. I'll talk about that one initially. So that is the 1.663 million increase as a revenue source into the general fund. The most significant piece of that is 1.3 million we're projecting in available interest income within that fund, and that it ties back to it's not the American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA funds, but the ARPA funds that we receive are producing such a return of interest income, in the sense when that money was deposited into the federal grants fund, and there was a large piece of revenue replacement that was moved from the grants fund to the general fund. And then, of course, there was the initiatives and the activities. There was a presentation recently from the business administrator on that. But those funds have been moved from the general fund over to the state grants fund, where they are generating interest income. And we researched, going all the way back to the receipt of the ARPA money. The federal government has confirmed there's no need to be concerned about returning any interest income, which can be the case at times when it comes to federal grants. The city does not have to return that interest income that is generating. And also, as a bonus, if you will, there's no restriction on the use of those funds. So it's a good utilization for this particular project as an additional funding resource to the general fund. Part of the grant funds too have amounts that are still there on deposit from previous initial outlays by the general fund, where the general fund had to do upfront expenditures and then submit those to the grantor agency and then would be subsequently reimbursed. So there are various such amounts in both the state and federal grants fund that are due to the general fund, which were not in this year's original appropriated budget. So that's the biggest, again, the biggest component of that 1.6 is the 1.3 million in projected interest income. For the federal grants fund, it's a little smaller. It's $412,000. Again, these are amounts that are earmarked to be reimbursed back to the general fund, which has not occurred yet. There is an older COVID-19 grant from the U.S. Department of Justice, which is a little over $161,000. And also police has a training assistance grant that is periodically reimbursed piecemeal based on submitted time documentation. It's through the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms program. So that has been building up over time. That amounts to about $150,000. So those two, the ATF and the COVID from DOJ, make up about 75% of that $412,000. So again, grant fund related for those two lines. Now, the last line is the estimated cash carryover, and this from time to time gets referred to as fund balance, the city's cash fund balance. So again, it's closing the gap on what's being asked on the amendment side of expense. One thing to note about this, and it kind of dovetails back to what Dave and Neil were talking about with timing. So this budget amount of 19.3 that we're trying to get to, we don't, of course, anticipate that's going to be an actual spend before the end of the year, because it's an 18-month projected project. We've roughed out percentages as to what the potential spend could be. And again, these are also, I know there's so many estimates, but we figure, say, about 40% in the last 3 months of this year for significant upfront costs that have to occur right away. And then another 45% next year for the whole, going through the year. And then finally, say, in the first quarter of 2027, the remaining 15%. That's like a spend projection. But as you know, when it comes to these contracts that are being finalized right now for these heavy construction costs, ultimately when they get signed off by the Law Bureau and the mayor and the controller, the biggest thing that they need to have on hand is to know that budget is there, it's secure and available, and there's also encumbrances that are going through the system right now to commit to the obligation. So the budget is needed to accommodate that. So that's why this is looking at it, from such a full overall perspective on what the full budget needs to be this year before the end of the year, but knowing that it won't be equated to as the full spend of $19 million before the end of 2025. Last thing I'll mention, Vice President Green, just on the schedule, the down below other funds are just meant to show a tie-in to what's shown above. The first two lines are the blight fund. This is the transfer out component going to the general fund. There's two separate budget units, salvage and permit penalty, that are split 50,000 each. That makes up the 100,000 that's going into the general fund up above. And then the capital projects fund appears there as well. The 375,000, that would relate to street cut, and that's the public works side of the capital projects fund. And these are shown because they are actually in the original budget ordinance that was approved by this body for 2025. So it's good to show these because on this schedule, because they play a role in budget ordinance wise. Whereas the other funds, the grant funds, are not in the same way included in the budget ordinance, but they are nonetheless have available amounts. And in some cases, they have project budget, which can accommodate the requests we're making. And that's, Vice President Green, that's the last comment I have on this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. McCutcheon. I'm going to start with questions from my colleagues. I'll start to my right this time with Councilwoman Daniels.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Davis.
No questions.
Thank you, President Hill.
I don't have any questions. Thanks for clarifying where the influx came in for the state grants fund and the federal grant fund. Thanks for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rawls.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, but same sentiment with President Hill. Just now I know where the influx is coming from. So thank you for that clarity.
Okay, yep, glad to hear it.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank Director Baker for giving us some of his time, and Mr. McCutcheon for the thorough presentation. Nothing further from me. I just can't wait to, or I anticipate the project getting up and going. So thank you.
Thank you, and Councilman Jones.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. McCutcheon. I do appreciate the presentation. I do have a couple of, I guess, kind of like requests. I'm not sure if they're for you or for Director Baker, and they don't need to be given tonight, but I'd like to have them before we vote on this. If we can get something in writing, whether it's a presentation, a write-up, just going over the total project cost and a breakdown of the cost, like what are we expecting to be done with this money? Is there going to be HVAC system? You know, like what's the actual expectation of the market project? Obviously, if we have a total budget now, we have an idea of what we're expecting to do to bring the market back to opening. If we could also get a timeline of how long we think that'll be. I know we said 18 months just now in this presentation, but if we can kind of just get a timeline breakdown so that the public will kind of have some information of what we're looking at as far as when the market might open and what all might be coming in it. And then for Solicitor Grover, is this legislation time sensitive? Would it be okay if we put it on our October 14th legislative agenda?
It is very time sensitive. The original notice that went out with the bids in August had anticipated bids, contracts signed in September. The initial ones can be signed because there's already the funding for them. As I think Mr. McCutcheon indicated originally, the overall project's about $23 million. It is getting this appropriation up to the 19 that allows all the contracts to be signed. So for example, today, because it was already an appropriation, the demo contract, which is the first one to go, was signed by the mayor through the bid process. The last bid is still not in for the site prep, and so they're looking for that number. But because entities have to order materials and things like that along the line, it is time sensitive to get it in. It is time sensitive to lock in the bid numbers that we got. There is just, and I don't have a hard deadline in my head for what the the bid announcement said of how soon the contracts would do. I can get that for you, but it is time sensitive. And I was frankly going to ask the council president from a discussion I had with the clerk's office earlier today, whether we could add a special session to next week's September 30th meeting just to vote. And that discussion hasn't happened yet.
Okay, thank you for that. I will be fine if we had a special legislative session. I just don't think I'm ready to vote on it tonight, and I don't think it would be fair to the public or the council to ask for it to be voted on tonight. And our next scheduled legislative session isn't until mid-October. So
and
if we could get a special legislative session, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, legally you cannot vote on it tonight. That's just not legally possible. So.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions or comments regarding the 6th proposed budget reallocation?
No.
No.
Thank you.
It's okay. Yeah, Vice President Green, it's Brian. The schedule, the timeline, of course, that's another one that would be, of course, Dave Baker would be good with that one. But I've developed actually too many schedules recently. But there's what you mentioned about, I have a summary that I can send out. Do you want me to just send that out to all of council, or do you want me to send it to you? I think it goes to what you're talking about. It'll summarize the payments, and then it summarizes the 11 bids, although they're not done, right? They're not finally approved. I mean, but it's that kind of a look currently. Do you want me to send it out blanketly to council members and everybody?
If you could send it to Mr. Truesdale and then he can forward it all to us, I would appreciate that.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, I will ask that this is moved to our next legislative agenda, not tonight, obviously, and hopefully we can have a special legislative agenda that this will be on.
Thank you. We will move forward with our meeting agenda. Next, we have public comment. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. If you'd like to offer public comment on the work session agenda items, please state your name and your address for the meeting record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live within the city. You will have 4 minutes to share your comments. Mr. Truesdale has added a timer to the screen. So I'll begin to my right. If there anyone that would like to offer public comment? Yes. Okay. Seeing no one, anyone in the middle section? Seeing no one, anyone to my left? The time is 7:17 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. If it's okay with everyone, I'd like to move right into our legislative session. So the time is 7:17 p.m. I will entertain a motion. Oh, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Sorry. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Present.
Ms. Green,
Present.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Rawls,
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez,
President.
Ms. Hill.
Present. Thank you. The invocation this evening will be led by Councilwoman Rawls, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Vice President Green.
Thank you, President Hill. I would just like for us to take a moment and have in our thoughts and in our hearts the 5 police officers, 3 who were killed and 2 who were injured in York. Also, I would like to have on our hearts and thoughts the homeless, or I don't like to say that, but unhoused population right now who have to move, where they're going to move, how that's going to happen, and just keeping them in our thoughts. And also just anybody else who is going through anything or having some trouble, just keeping everybody in our hearts and our thoughts. Let's just take a moment of silence, please, for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rawls. Vice President Green?
Thank you. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Green. For communications, thank you. This evening, we are joined by Mr. Stuart Landon. He serves as the producing artistic director for Open Stage. We are recognizing Open Stage's 40th anniversary season.
Awesome.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for having me today. I really, really appreciate your time, everybody. Although I certainly have a lot of them in my office, I have not brought a single spreadsheet for you. I know. If you need them, just stop on over. I'll show you. First of all, in case you're not familiar, which I know you are, this is Open Stage. First of all, I'm the producing artistic director at Open Stage of Harrisburg. This is a professional theater company here, one of two professional theater companies here in our capital. We've been located at 25 North Court Street for over 30 years at the street level of the Walnut Street parking garage. So it's all of a 2-minute walk from right here. We've been part of Harrisburg's cultural and civic life since 1983, though, and we're proud to call downtown home. If you go to the next slide, please. So we produced a lot of really powerful plays and musicals for the 4 decades that we've been producing, because, of course, we're entering into our 40th year. The Diary of Anne Frank, A Christmas Carol, we produced those 2 shows for 25 years, which is amazing. Those are being reinvented this year, which I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. We produced wonderful musicals like Fun Home, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, plays like For Colored Girls or August Wilson's Pittsburgh Cycle. Our musical concerts in the fall have honored people like David Bowie or Fleetwood Mac, and we honor the past and uplift the present, and we're going to champion the future in the next 40 years. So let's go ahead and next slide, please. These are some of our wonderful artists here that you're seeing. So this season, our theme is the next chapter. That's our theme of the 40th season, and we're not looking back, but we're honoring our past, and we're taking a bold step forward. It's been a wonderful season so far. We've started it just this past month. So next slide, please. Right now we're doing a wonderful concert, a celebration of the Beatles called Come Together that runs until this Saturday. And it's a joyous night of music and heart with wonderful voices. And next up we have Dracula, a comedy of terrors, which is spooky and funny, and it's also really stupid, which sometimes we need that. We operate 3 performance venues, our 108-seat Capitol Blue Cross main stage, our 60-seat studio theater, and the Court Street Cabaret, which is a 40-seat venue offering comedy, music, and community events. In 2019, we completed renovations after a capital campaign, and that the community was very generous with, creating those revenue-generating opportunities and building a more welcoming downtown arts campus, going from 1 theater that can hold about 100 people to 3 spaces, which is really nice. This is our holiday season. We've got Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, which is going to be hopefully a new tradition that we have at Open Stage, and Who's Holiday, another really fun comedy. So that will fill our December. Emmett Otter is based on a beloved Jim Henson Muppet holiday special, and Whose Holiday is about Cindy Lou Who, but she's all grown up and life did not go as planned. It's both are very fun. Emmett Otter's for the family, and Whose Holiday is definitely not. We stay busy in December with music, comedy, and holiday cheer, and in fact, we now produce events for nearly half the year, keeping our stages and our city full of life. So on this slide, you can see a couple of shows that we're taking on tour this year. This fall, we're taking A Christmas Carol on the road to schools, libraries, and retirement communities. And in the spring, we'll tour Anne and Peter, a new play that we're writing, a moving new piece, imagining a conversation between Anne Frank and Peter Van Pels. We presented Christmas Carol and The Diary of Anne Frank on our stages for 25 years, and I would say we're a little bit of an expert. But right now, schools are going through a really tough spot, and I think it's really important that we meet them where they are. So we're taking these shows to them rather than expecting them to come to us. We know how busing is tough right now with so many districts, and of course, budgets are always tight. We're going to meet those students, those seniors, and those families with compassion and creativity, and I'm really excited for that. And then every spring for the last 4 years, we presented the Good at Heart Festival, which is inspired by Anne Frank's quote, "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart." And so we have a week of conversation and art and celebrate Anne's spirit, and we bring together films and conversation and theater. So that's going to happen again this coming March, and that's going to be very exciting. All of it's open to the public, and much of it is free. Next slide, please. The Alsadek Theater School, which was previously called the Open Stage Studio School, was named after our founders, Don and Ann Alsadek, in 2019, in 2017 when they retired. We serve hundreds of students each year through year-round education programming. We also, of course, have thousands of students that come through our doors when it comes to the different shows that we presented over the last 25 years or 40 years, depending on how you count it. And we also partner with local schools to mentor young artists and to, of course, bring our shows to them. We're not just teaching performance, though, at the Alsadek Theater School. We're building confidence, compassion, and future citizens. In the spring, we have a big show, Jesus Christ Superstar. We're going to be at the Forum Auditorium, which I'm really excited about. For one weekend only, we're going to have the largest cast that Open Stage has ever had. We're going to be in the largest theater Open Stage has ever been at. And we're probably going to do one of the biggest shows Open Stage has ever done. With thrilling vocals, this large ensemble, and community partnerships, this is certainly going to be a wonderful way to celebrate our 40th year with Harrisburg being at the center. The next slide, please. And this is my final slide with just some pictures of some wonderful shows we've done over the last few years. Honestly, folks, my wonderful council, I've been a citizen here. I moved to Harrisburg in 2007, and I love Harrisburg. And Open Stage loves Harrisburg, but we've never been just a theater. We're a family of artists, and I'll say a pillar, maybe, in the arts community, although I hate that word sometimes, but I think that's what we are after 40 years, right? At a time when funding is scarce and even decency and passion are called weakness, we choose to lead with courage. We open minds, we lift voices, we make room for truth, joy, and complexity. We ask big questions without easy answers, and we're standing right now at a strategic threshold. We want to pay artists a living wage. We want to expand our education and touring programs. We want to reach more patrons, and we want to support Harrisburg's growth by staying rooted here and staying visionary. So just so you know, we've been operating at 80% capacity over the last couple of seasons, which is actually astounding for our particular industry and the standards there. That means people are coming to Harrisburg, people are coming downtown, people are spending money in our city, they're dining out, they're parking, they're walking here, they're investing in our city. And we were part at the last downtown revitalization when I talked with our founding artistic director, Don Alsadek, about that a bit over the years. And we're looking forward to the next one, honestly, as we continue down that journey and those explorations we're currently having. I invite this body to come and have a tour at Open Stage if you haven't yet. Maybe a drink at our bar if that is something you'd be interested in, and or maybe take in a show, a musical or a play. We'd be glad to have you. And finally, we've been called a hidden gem for years. We're on that grand thoroughfare of Court Street after all. And I think it might be time to just be a gem. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. We do have a proclamation in recognition of your 40th
wonderful.
anniversary season, so just bear with me a moment. The City of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Office of City Council and Office of City Clerk. Proclamation. Whereas the City of Harrisburg applauds Open Stage for their dedicated commitment to sharing live theater and the arts with the greater Harrisburg area for 40 years. And whereas Open Stage was founded in 1985 as a response to the 1982 Mayor's Task Force for the Arts for Harrisburg report, which cited a need for theater of a higher quality in the area. As a result of a strategic planning grant from the Greater Harrisburg Foundation, the theater has been located in the Walnut Street parking garage in the heart of downtown Harrisburg since 1992. And whereas Open Stage carries out their mission as a regional professional theater and educational program dedicated to supporting a company of artists to present diverse offerings of thought-provoking theater and educational activities in intimate settings. And whereas Open Stage has 3 performance venues, the Main Stage, the Studio Theater, and the Court Street Cabaret. Open Stage offers a variety of productions throughout the year, including plays, musicals, and cabarets. In addition, Open Stage also offers a variety of educational programs for all ages, including workshops, classes, and camps. And whereas Open Stage is home to the Alsadek Theater School, which is a training program dedicated to developing students' skills, knowledge, and appreciation of the process of acting and the making of theater. Programs offered are both academic and rigorous year-round classes for adults and students from grades K through 12. And now, therefore, be it hereby proclaimed that Harrisburg City Council commends Open Stage for their steadfast dedication to creating better actors and people through classes and workshops. And be it further proclaimed that Harrisburg City Council wishes to extend best wishes for a successful 40th anniversary season. Signed and attested in the City of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Jared Truesdale, City Clerk, Danielle L. Hill, Harrisburg City Council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Do you mind if we take a picture really quick?
That would be wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Where do we take it? Right there? Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much. Take care. We will now move forward with our meeting agenda. Next, we have courtesy of the floor. This is another opportunity to offer public comment. Again, please state your name and your address for the meeting record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live within the city. You will have 4 minutes to share your comments. Mr. Truesdale will serve as our timekeeper, and there is a clock that is on the screen for your reference. And I'll begin, please. Oh, if you have something you'd like to share, if you wouldn't mind sharing it with Mr. Truesdale and he can distribute or share it with us. I'm sorry, do you mind speaking directly into the microphone? I'm not sure if it's on. One moment. No, hold on. The green light is blinking.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Dennis Samancic. I have Allison Hill property. My property in concern right now is 1166 Mulberry Street. After moving to Allison Hill in 1985, 40 years later, the city paved partially the alley with a used blacktop to eliminate the obvious treacherous navigating and deplorable small alley, which is Workplace, in the 1100 block of Mulberry Street. This now somewhat surface is now the exclusive parking area for a few bad residents that claim the area their own private space. There are vehicles covered to not show possible the legal or non-legal inspection and backed into the bank of the hill so you can't see the license plates. I passed out these 38, I passed out pictures to show you. Other vehicles come and go, but a road cone is put in place when they move so as to Okay. All right? All right. Other vehicles come and go, but when they leave, a road cone is put in place so as to discourage any other resident from parking there. At the end of Workplace Alley, which is a small alley, is a lot with a service right-of-way of 3 feet going out toward Summit Street. The owner of 1168 Mulberry Street has made the lot into an automobile work site. Almost all of the lot is covered with rubber roofing, and he planted bamboo, which will be a jungle in a couple years. He also put a fence post further in past his property. I believe it's in the alleyway where the alley is supposed to be there. The owner of the 1168 Mulberry Street has been causing trouble for 4 or 5 years since purchasing the property. My property is next to his at 1166 Mulberry Street. I had 17 properties in this particular neighborhood, but as a result of a lot of problems and a lot of things not happening with the police and so forth, and a divorce and bankruptcy, in 1995, I have one property left. This man's illegal business would not last 4 months, let alone 4 to 5 years, if any member of council lived next to him. This issue has been going on by me for 4 years, trying to get him to stop what he's doing. I've called and I reported him to the abandoned vehicle officer. I've met with codes people there. I've met with paving people there. I've been doing a lot of trying to make the thing better. I can't get anybody else to come to city council to do what I'm doing, to complain. People just don't want to get involved. They have a reason to, because these people can probably mess up their cars and destroy them too. They're afraid. And they might not even be legal people, so they might be afraid of that as well. Not only are his cars and trucks are behind his house or alley or illegally, he has taken up the entire length of a block to park illegal vehicles on Summit Street and Crescent Street and Mulberry Street. One car has no tags, is wrecked, sitting on Crescent Street for 4.5 months. Several times he has confronted me with hatred to me bringing up the problem. He has put a pillar of mayor.
Thank you for your comments.
All right. That's it?
Yes, do you mind staying after the meeting?
Yeah, I could talk
That
to
way,
you.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Sure. Mr. Truesdale. Is there anyone else on my right that would like to offer public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing no one. Anyone in the middle section?
Yeah, hello and good evening, Harrisburg City Council. My name is Gavin Ford. I'm the president of the Paxton Fire Company #1, where I'm a firefighter and driver. Before I begin with what I want to say, I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for what you guys are doing with the Broad Street Market. I spent some time there as a kid. Always enjoyed going there. There's a lot that goes into some of those projects behind the scenes not everyone sees. I wanted to thank Councilman Lamont Jones for his time reaching out to me quickly yesterday after an email I had sent him. The Paxton Fire Company is now in its 98th year of serving the public, and we are one of the closest neighbors to Harrisburg City. We kind of touch each other. The fire company has always had a great relationship with the Harrisburg Bureau of Fire. In 2022, our borough officials signed a contract with the township of Swatara to provide its fire protection instead of working with us to continue providing services. However, we continued to provide mutual aid fire service to the city and other municipalities. Now we're at a point where we need official recognition from other municipalities so that we can continue operating. Such as the city of Harrisburg. This evening, I'm asking for you to consider at a future date entering into some kind of agreement or memorandum of understanding with us. Chief Enterline, I know he was here earlier, he's said he would use our services. He's a great individual. An MOU or some kind of agreement would more formalize our relationship that we've had with the city already for decades. The services are free that we provide. We're volunteers, so there wouldn't be a cost necessarily. The only cost there may potentially be would be to solicitize the agreement, but we'd be more than willing to pay for that. And that would also help get the city quick help for a large fire or emergency that the city itself couldn't handle on its own from additional surrounding departments coming in. We're ready, willing, and able to be those good neighbors of the city again. Thank you for all you guys do for the city and your consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't think we have any immediate questions, but if you'd like to say just so that we can review and discuss the draft that you've shared.
Sure, yeah, like I said,
Okay.
it's a draft. I mean, obviously, it's going to have to be wait till another day, but thank you
Sure.
guys.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the middle section that would like to offer public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing no one. Anyone to my left? Seeing and hearing no one, we will move forward with our meeting agenda. Next, we have the approval of minutes for the legislative session that occurred on September 9th, 2025. Council members, are there any revisions to those meeting minutes?
Yes, Madam President, just very brief and minor under new business. Just the time slot for Hotspot Saturdays reads 10:0 a.m. 0 instead of the 10 a.m. to 12.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a second for the revision?
Second.
Thank you. So before us, we have one revision to the meeting minutes for the legislative session that occurred on September 9th of 2025. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
The amendment passes, or the correction passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. We will now move forward with reports of committees. I will deliver the first report on behalf of the Administration Committee. on the work session that occurred on September 16th, 2025. On Tuesday, September 16th, 2025, the Administration Committee met to discuss one resolution, Resolution 57 of 2025, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority to facilitate the construction of the Capital Region Operations and Maintenance Facility and Transfer Center and all associated site and access improvements. City Solicitor Neil Grover was present on behalf of the administration to discuss the resolution. Solicitor Grover shared that various pieces of legislation regarding the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority have been before council. The resolution essentially allows the project to keep moving forward. Other documents are forthcoming. The City of Harrisburg worked with the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority on the intergovernmental agreement to define next steps. Mr. Richard Farr, Executive Director of Rapid Transit and Capital Area Transit, was also present to answer any questions that council members had. Mr. Farr outlined the terms of the agreement and shared, similar to Solicitor Grover, that council members and members of the public may have seen recent demolition. Mr. Bill Schooner, a site civil engineer, was also present. And then he and Mr. Farr made several reminders that they've been before council several times discussing the project. This is the third phase of the land development plan. I encourage my colleagues to support Resolution 57 of 2025 to ensure the project can continue to move forward. This concludes the work of the Administration Committee. The next report you will hear will be delivered by Vice President Green on behalf of the Budget and Finance Committee on the work session of September 16th, 2025.
Thank you, President Hill. During the work session of September 16, 2025, the Budget and Finance Committee met to discuss Resolution 62 of 2025, a resolution approving the fifth proposed 2025 budget reallocation. We had a presentation from the Finance Department to go over the proposed reallocation. These allocations included reallocating funds from the police salary budget to cover police overtime, a reallocation in Parks and Recs budget to account for a stronger than expected event revenue, an amendment to accommodate unexpected prior year codes reimbursements, and last but certainly not least, a transfer of funds to cover the overrun of the cost of the F&B field project due to changes required for Major League Baseball. I will ask that my colleagues support this resolution, and that concludes the report from the Budget and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Vice President Green. The next report you will hear will be delivered by our Community and Economic Development Committee Chair, Councilwoman Daniels, on the work session of September 16th, 2025.
Thank you. On September 16th, the Community and Economic Development met to review two resolutions. The first one was Resolution 59-2025, which is a resolution to consolidate 14 parcels into one at the 901 North Cameron Street address. And that is to continue to do the work developing the Capital Region Operations and Maintenance Facility and Transfer Center, which has been an ongoing project. One of the good things about this project is that the impervious surface will be smaller than the previous footprint. So in addition to making the program or services a little bit more efficient and more interconnected with other transportation systems, it also meets some of our water treatment goals. So I recommend folks to vote in favor of 59-2025. The second bill or the second resolution was 64-2025, and that was to convert office building space at 508 and 510 North 2nd Street into 11 housing units. And similarly, the applicant had requested requested relief from parking requirements. But other than that, it converts an otherwise empty building into a building that could be used by city residents. So I also ask folks to support this resolution. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Daniels. The final committee report you will hear this evening will be delivered by our Public Works Committee Chair, Councilman Rodriguez, on the work session of September 16th, 2025.
Thank you, Madam President. The Harrisburg City Council Public Works Committee met on September 16th of 2025 to discuss a pair of resolutions. Resolution 53 of 2025 is a resolution approving disposal of certain personal property owned by the City of Harrisburg, which have exhausted their useful life for city operations. Joining us for the city administration was our city engineer, Mr. Joel Siders. Mr. Siders stated there are over 16 expendable traffic controllers, signal timing, and pedestrian timing units that have been in the possession of the city for an extensive period of time. These units are beyond repair and have become unreliable and unsafe to attempt public use. No questions from council came about for this resolution, and committee requested it be added to the next legislative session for action. The next resolution discussed it was Resolution 61 of 2025. This is a resolution ratifying a professional service agreement with Wallace Montgomery and Associates, LLP, for the purpose of providing engineering and design services for multimodal improvements along Walnut Street. Joining us was Solicitor Neil Grover, City Engineer once again, Mr. Joel Siders, and Mr. Wayne Martin, representing Wallace Montgomery and Associates, LLP. City Solicitor Neil Grover spoke on what caused the resolution to be ratified. Primarily, the previous contract had issues with the indemnification clause in the agreement, and the city had to act fast, ensuring we could stay on schedule with the qualifying entity. Mr. Martin gave us a brief synopsis of his experience and let council know there's a percentage of MBE participation he intended to include to keep the project inclusive and to provide more local jobs to assist in stimulating our local economy. Mr. Martin mentioned he and city engineer were looking for community feedback, and there was a town hall Saturday, 9/20 from 10 to 12 at the Bethesda Mission. The objective was to receive input from the community and keep residents abreast of projects and construction. Questions for council were minimal and were geared more towards project timeline and warm welcomes to Mr. Wayne Martin, the previous Harrisburg City Engineer. Committee chair requested this resolution be added to the next legislative session, and that concludes my report from the work session for September 16th of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. We do not have any ordinances for first reading, ordinances for amendment, or ordinances for final passage. We will move forward with resolutions. The first resolution for consideration is Resolution 53 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 53, 2025, a resolution approving the disposal of certain personal property owned by the City of Harrisburg which have exhausted their useful life for city operations.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 53 of 2025?
Yes, Madam President. Just a point of clarification for legal. I'm not sure if we need to suspend the rules to discuss or if I could just ask. I'd like to set forward a motion to suspend the rules for conversation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to ask on the language, resolution approving the disposal, should we add sale? Because disposal is just like we're discarding. Is it important to put like sale as well, being as though we may actually sell some of the items?
Hold on 1 second.
Disposal would just indicate like we're discarding it. Just wanted to be specific.
It's just, yeah, the third whereas has what I think covers us.
Covers the sale. Okay, perfect. No further questions. Thank you.
You're
Put a
welcome.
motion to go back into
Resume our
yeah.
legislative session. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. So before us, we have Resolution 53 of 2025. Are there any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Resolution 53, 2025 passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 57 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 57, 2025, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority to facilitate the construction of the Capital Region Operations and Maintenance Facility and Transfer Center and all associated site and access improvements.
Thank you. Council members, are there any final questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 57 of 2025? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
I am going to recuse myself from Resolution 57 of 2025, for my company has a potential interest.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Resolution 57, 2025 passes by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 59 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 59, 2025, a resolution approving the preliminary/final lot consolidation and land development plan for the Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority to facilitate the construction of the Capital Region Operations and Maintenance Facility and Transfer Center, along with associated site and access improvements.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 59 of 2025? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
I am going to recuse myself on Resolution 59 of 2025, for my company has a potential interest.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Resolution 59, 2025 passes by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 61 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 61, 2025, a resolution ratifying a professional services agreement with Wallace Montgomery and Associates, LLP, for the purpose of providing engineering and design services for multimodal improvements along Walnut Street.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 61 of 2025? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Resolution 61, 2025 passes by a vote of 7-0.
Next, we have Resolution 62 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 62, 2025, a resolution approving the fifth proposed 2025 budget reallocation.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 62 of 2025? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
Yes.
Resolution 62, 2025 passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Resolution 64 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 64, 2025, a resolution approving the preliminary/final land development plan for 508 and 510 North 2nd Street submitted by WCI Partners, LP, to convert the existing office building into multi-family dwellings and expanded site and access improvements.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 64 of 2025? I have one comment. While I appreciate the development and the vast portfolio of affordable units that WCI Partners has across the city. With this particular project, they were not interested. There would have only been 2 units with the 11-unit property. So that would have been deemed affordable for our residents. So I will be voting no on Resolution 64 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Hill.
No.
Resolution 64, 2025 passes by a vote of 6 to 1.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 65 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 65, 2025, a resolution approving the adoption of the Dauphin County 2025 Hazard Mitigation Plan as the official hazard mitigation plan of the city of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Resolution 65 of 2025 will move to the Public Safety Committee. Next, we have Resolution 66 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 66, 2025, a resolution confirming the appointment of Robert Jennings III to serve on the Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Resolution 66 of 2025 will move to the Public Safety Committee. Our final resolution this evening is Resolution 67 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 67, 2025, a resolution confirming the appointment of Dominique Commodore to serve on the Citizens Law Enforcement Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Resolution 67 of 2025 will also move to the Public Safety Committee. Council members, is there any old business for discussion? Seeing and hearing none, any new business? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, the time is 8:01 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.